From a sweet new body to a sickening new price, change is coming to the iPhone. After a few generations of minor changes, Apple is looking to take a big swing with the iPhone 15. First off, one of Apple users' wishes is finally coming true. A leak from Ice Universe, a trusty source of iPhone info, has revealed the dimensions of the larger iPhones. It looks like the 15 Plus and 15 Pro Max are going to clock in at 159.86 by 76.73 by 8.25 millimeters. More interestingly though, the thickness is being rated at 11.84 mils. Now the dimensions mostly seem pretty similar to the big iPhone 14s, but the thickness is quite different. That's right, so I guess you could say that the iPhone went on a diet. After a couple of generations in which the iPhone steadily became thicker, the iPhone is cutting the thickness by 15% this year. A lot of that reduction's coming from its camera bump, which will be 3.59 millimeters thick, in contrast to the 4.18 millimeter bump of the 14 series. I think all users can agree that this is a welcome change. As great as it was that the iPhone was finally spicing up its camera, the bump really was getting excessive lately. After a year of rocking its new 48 megapixel sensor, Apple looks to be scaling the proportions of the phone to match it. There's one more shock about the body, but I'm gonna save that for the end. For now, let me move to the front of the screen. There are a few changes coming to the screen this year. One pretty underrated surprise on this front concerns the dynamic island. This was Apple's attempt to turn the inescapable notch into a usable part of the phone experience. While people were confused about the dynamic island at first, there was a fair bit of excitement about it. The problem with the feature so far has been that app developers haven't really created any features around the island. There's a simple reason why. The feature was only available on the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max this generation. App developers presumably didn't feel the need to develop features that only a subsection of their users could enjoy. That being said, Apple was definitely pitching the dynamic island as a reason to upgrade to the higher-end iPhones. All of these are reasons why it's surprising that Apple's bringing the dynamic island to the lower-end iPhones this year. At the same time, this is also a much-needed change, giving all iPhone users the benefit of the dynamic islands, a good way to stimulate activity around the feature. In fact, Apple would have been better off doing that in the 14 generation, but better late than never, I suppose. I'm not done talking about the screen yet though. Apple might be about to crank the brightness on the display.
Probably is the biggest design change here that is going to come to the iPhone 15 series is that the curvature of the phone body actually is sort of coming back. Remember with the iPhone 10, the 10s, and the 11 that the phone sort of had curved edges? Well, that looks to be making its sort of reintroduction here in 2023, as we're no longer going to have the more boxy, edgy industrial design that was introduced with the 12.
Now, display brightness is one of those things that Apple bumps a few percentage points every year, and yet Apple seems to lag behind the competition often when it comes to brightness. That might be about to change this year, as Apple's supposedly throwing in a screen with massive brightness. This leak comes courtesy of another reliable source, Shrimp Apple Pro. So how massive will the jump in brightness be? Not too much, just 2,500 nits of peak brightness. That's literally almost 1,000 nits higher than the brightness the previous models reserved for HDR content. There's an obvious reason why Apple would do this. They also equipped the Apple Watch Ultra with an ultra-bright screen. It looks like Apple's exploring the world of adventurers as their cool new niche. When you're hiking on a bright summer day or diving into the depths, and your phone's supposed to be a vital tool, you'll want to be able to see it. Well, the iPhone 14's top-line models were advertised as companions for the most daring among us. The 15 will cater to them even harder. With a screen this bright and this pretty, Apple's really throwing the punches at Garmin and other companies in this market. And speaking of how good the screen will look, let me tell you why else it'll be even better this year. It's about to get curvier. In a bid to shrink the bezels of the display even further, Apple's going to be curving the displays of the iPhone 15 lineup. That'll help get the phone even closer to the dream of an edge-to-edge display. True edge-to-edge screens have long been the nirvana that smartphones have been racing towards. But what's interesting about this is that most of the smartphone industry has shifted away from curved screens. As pretty as they look, they have their downsides. Curved screens screens are more vulnerable since the sides of the phone can't take the stress of a drop off the glass. They're also harder to make screen protectors for, and those are among the best-selling accessories for any phone. Whenever Apple does a 180 and goes in the opposite direction from its competitors, you can be sure they've got an ace up their sleeve. With the introduction of the ceramic shield on the iPhone 12, Apple has been ratcheting up the drop protection of their phones. Could it be that Apple's so confident in the ceramic shield now that they're curving their displays again? Time will tell, folks. But enough screen talk. I've saved one of the best leaks for last.
According to Max, the new bezel is going to have a 0.1mm slope on the display's edge, and this backs up previous news about the iPhone 15 being more curved, and with the curve starting from the bezel similar to the Apple Watch. Now next up, we've got another leak from Unknowns21, and he's posted an image of the iPhone 15 Pro, but unfortunately just the bottom. The photo confirms the presence of USB-C on the iPhone 15, although as we know from the previous rumors, the USB-C port may also need authentication, so this means that you're still going to need to buy the Apple-compatible cables.
It's time to say goodbye to anodized aluminum. Apple might be about to embark on the most ambitious smartphone design users have ever seen. For their top models in the 15 generation, the company's reportedly considering a titanium body. To mark this historic change in their iPhone lineup, Apple may change the name of the iPhone 15 Pro to the iPhone 15 Ultra, or they might add this Ultra to the existing lineup. Titanium's a great metal. It's both insanely tough and durable, while being light enough for a daily carry device. After all, Apple expects users to wear the Apple Watch Ultra, which has a titanium casing. Going with titanium further solidifies Apple's push into the adventurous niche. If you're supposed to trust your phone with your life, it had better be completely indestructible. Assuming this rumor plays out, the iPhone 15 might just bring about the most daring change to the phone's design since the iPhone 4, and hopefully with fewer antenna issues. Now, I talked about all the benefits of titanium, but there is a catch to it. Titanium's expensive, and that brings me to the big downer of the day. Pricing is about to go up. Since the launch of the iPhone 11 series, Apple has only gradually crept up the pricing of their devices. The rumors state that the $100 price increase that was expected for the 14 lineup has been kicked up to the 15 series. And on top of that, the titanium iPhone, whether it's a Pro, Pro Max, or Ultra, will be starting at $1,200. Sheesh, if you can afford to spend that much on a phone, then you're definitely in some elite company. I can only hope that this price increase doesn't end up happening, but I'm not too optimistic. Part of the reason we had around 4 years of relatively consistent pricing was that Apple wasn't radically changing the phones. But with the iPhone 15, we're entering a new era for Apple's smartphone series. There's a good chance that it's going to carry a new price tag to match. When will you get to experience this new iPhone era? You can probably expect the iPhones to come out in the usual mid-September window. If there is a titanium iPhone Ultra, I wouldn't be surprised if its release came later. That's all the iPhone news I have for you today.